As t-shirt business owners, we understand the importance of effective task management. We have to. From designing and printing and pressing shirts to marketing and customer service, there are numerous tasks that require our attention on a daily basis. But without a clear strategy to prioritize and optimize these tasks, we can easily find ourselves overwhelmed and stretched too thin. Sometimes that happens more often than not as a creative entrepreneur. But the good news is this is where the focus funnel comes in. It's a simple yet powerful framework that helps us streamline our task management process and focus our efforts on activities that truly will drive our businesses forward. By implementing the focus funnel, we can optimize our productivity and create a solid foundation for growth and success.
You're listening to Turn Down the Hustle, the podcast dedicated to transforming how you run your creative online t-shirt business by working smarter, not harder, so you can spend more time with your why, people, and passions that matter most in your life. So throw on your favorite graphic tee and turn up the heat press, because it's time to turn down the hustle. Here's your host, digital marketer, cold brew lover, t-shirt maker, freckled hype girl, and owner of Sunkissed Virtual Assistant, Amy.
This episode today is all based on the book Procrastination on Purpose, 5 Permissions to Multiply Your Time. It's a book by Rory Vaden, and I will have a link in the show notes below on how you can get a hold of this book on Amazon if you're interested in learning more. Just in case you're not convinced, you might be asking, why is effective time management so crucial for me? Well, simply put, it's because our time and our energy are finite resources. It's very limited and we cannot get it back and we cannot make more like money. We need to make the most of every minute and ensure that we're investing our efforts into activities that actually yield the highest returns. Like, is this worth my time? Now, using the focus funnel, you can eliminate non-essential tasks that don't contribute to your growth or profitability. So again, let me go back and say eliminate. Some of those tasks you shouldn't even be doing, and we're going to get into that. The next step, if you picture this like an upside down triangle, would be to automate. Are there certain things that you're constantly doing over and over again that maybe we can create an automated system behind so you don't have to do those tasks anymore? Next would be delegate. If you can't automate the task and you couldn't eliminate it before that, can you delegate it? Can you outsource it to someone else? Or is there a tool that would allow you to free up time to where you're not having to do it from scratch? Finally, if you can't eliminate, automate, or delegate, then it might just come down to you needing to do it yourself. This focus funnel allows us to optimize our productivity, make informed decisions about which task you should be doing, and create a clear path towards our goal. So in this episode, we are going to dive deep into the focus funnel framework. We'll talk about how to apply it in your business, and we're actually going to take a few example tasks and work it through the focus funnel together. So if you're ready to take your productivity to the next level and unlock some of your full potential in your t-shirt business with your tasks, then stay tuned. The focus funnel truly has the power to transform how you approach your task, streamlining your operations, and drive your business towards the success you know it deserves. What better way to turn down the hustle than with the focus funnel? Let's jump in. So what exactly is the focus funnel? If when I was introducing the concepts you were trying to scribble them down, don't worry, we're going to go through them right now. And if you are more of a visual person, you can go ahead and head over to www.sunkissva.com/8. And I have given you a visual depiction of the focus funnel, and it might help you throughout this episode if you have a visualization of what the focus funnel looks like when we start to talk about the different steps of the focus funnel. So just a reminder, you have an upside down triangle. It starts with eliminate, If you can't eliminate, you're going to automate. If you can't automate, delegate. If you can't delegate, you're going to do it. But before you do it right now, you need to decide, does this need to be done right now or done later? And then that's how you create your priority list for the day. So let's begin with eliminate. Think of it as, maybe like a cleaning session for your task list. So again, some things shouldn't even land on your task list to begin with. Even if they do, that's okay. I'm not saying don't freely jot down ideas on your to-do list anymore, but before you take any action, I want you to start thinking through this focus funnel. So again, some of those things don't even need to be done. But let's say you go through your to-do list, you have taken off some things that you don't even think you should be spending your time on. They've made the cut. Now you want to start thinking about automation. So think about those repetitive tasks that you're doing over and over and over again. Maybe it's sending an email to your new subscribers. Whenever they join your email list, you're typing it out every time. And is there a way that we could maybe create an automation behind that? So look at the task that you're consistently doing over and over again, and we'll see if we can't put some automation behind it. If you can't automate that task, next you're going to be thinking about delegating. Are you the person that absolutely has to do this task? Now, as a single owner, small business, there might be times where you're looking to your left and to your right and it's only you, and delegate might not really be an option for you. But just think about that when you're choosing your currency, whether it's time or money, depending on the season you're in, both in personal life and business, you might decide that I'm going to choose my currency and I'd rather spend my money so I can get back time. Or things might be a little bit tight, or you're trying to teach yourself and your currency is your time. You'd rather do it yourself, might take more time, but you're going to save money. So again, you just have to choose your currency. Finally, we have do. So this is where you're deciding, it's come down to you. No one else can do it. You have to do the task. You're going to decide, does this need to be done absolutely right now, or can it be done later? If it's done right now, that goes on your top 3 priorities for the day. If it can be done later, it goes back onto the list. And then when you look at that task again, you're going to put it through the focus funnel again. So even though you decided today, yes, I need to do this, but I'm going to do it later, when you go to review that task, maybe later on in the day or tomorrow or next week, it might actually turn into one where you decide, okay, now I can eliminate this task. So that's the focus funnel in a nutshell. Eliminate, automate, delegate, and do. Now, before I lose you, you might be thinking, Amy, this is too much. I'm just going to write things on my to-do list, I get them done. Or you might be honest with yourself and realize that there's a long to-do list and very rarely do you ever get it done. Well, by applying this focus funnel, you're being more critical on your to-do list. We only have so much time. Many of us are working 9 to 5, or even if this is a full-time business for you, you might be juggling, trying to raise kids at home while also running this business. We don't have a lot of time. So when we do spend time on our business, we have to make sure that we're completing those tasks that are actually moving the ball forward. And this is the Turn Down the Hustle podcast. What better way to turn down the hustle than to actually streamline and refine that to-do list and make sure we're working on the tasks that absolutely need to get done. Now that you understand the framework of the focus funnel and why I really think it's important that we take action using the focus funnel, let's break down the different segments of the focus funnel more in detail. So, what are we starting with? What's at the top of the funnel? Do you remember flipping through the pages of 17 magazine, rushing to find a pen for those fun quizzes in the back? Well, get ready to relive that excitement with my first ever quiz. This time, we're not figuring out which boy band you are. We're diving into what your email habits say about your summer activities. Are you a pool party, a beach day, 4th of July fireworks, or a sunrise jog? It's a fun, quick 10-question test that will give you some surprising insights into your email marketing style. And the best part, you'll get actionable tips based on your test result to boost your email game. Head over to sunkissva.com/email email quiz to take the quiz now. And don't forget, once you get your results, share them on social media and tag me. I can't wait to see which summer activity you get and to walk you through your next steps. Ready, set, quiz. Visit sunkissva.com/email quiz and let's have some fun this summer. Do we know the answer? If you said eliminate, you are correct. I am in this super, declutter phase. I don't really know what it is, but actually I think I do know what it is. I just moved into a new house. I PCS'd into a new location. I'm back in Florida now. So, when you get a new space, you're probably really energized to make sure it's, decluttered. You're motivated to organize it. But I think also living in Japan was really eye-opening, living in 2/3 or half of the place I lived in before my prior assignment. And you realize wow, I have a lot of stuff, or where am I going to put all of this stuff? And just watching how the Okinawans lived and that they didn't need much. They had a few quality items and recycling was huge too. Not a lot of trash created at all. You kind of just looked at all of the stuff that you have differently. And I threw away, and I guess for today's episode, you could say I eliminated a lot of stuff. So no, you're not going to be throwing away a lot of stuff with the focus funnel. But when you think about eliminating tasks, that's kind of what I think about whenever you're trying to organize, declutter. You're going to be doing that to your to-do list. So we're trying to cut things off this to-do list that are not necessary. So when you're looking at your to-do list, which you can pause this episode if you don't have a to-do list for the office today, or maybe even your personal life, but this episode is more applicable to business to-do list. You can go ahead and pause this episode and create a list. Just jot down everything possible that you think you need to do, and then press play again on this episode, and you might be able to look at it through a different lens. So whenever you're looking at your to-do list, are there things on that list that are just draining your energy and you don't really have a purpose for them? Or if you do them, they're not really making that significant of a change. Is anybody going to notice you doing these tasks? A common one that I was really guilty of for years, I would say, in retail, even into my virtual assistant business as well, is updating my website. I always was changing something on the homepage, or a new week, I thought I needed to redo the theme or move things around. I don't know if you ever did this whenever you were a teenager, but rearranging your room. I wasn't nearly as bad as my sister. My sister, all the time, you would hear at 11 p.m., 1 a.m. at night, moving furniture around. This is my older sister. She would always rearrange her room. I need to ask her, why did you do that all the time? But I did that a few times as a teenager too. And when we first start in our business, we are doing the same thing. We feel like we need to update the graphics here, or change out a theme, or move things around, or my homepage is boring. Hey, what if whenever your visitors visit your website, they feel at home because they know exactly how to navigate. They're familiar with your home being your virtual space online for your business. They know how to navigate. They know where the bathroom is. They know how to help themselves around. Whereas if you're always changing it, every time they come, they're like, oh my gosh, you changed things up. Where's the bathroom? How do I get here? Or they might just decide to leave and go somewhere they're more familiar. That's one task that you might want to think about eliminating to a certain extent. There are going to be times where you need to update, but the constant refreshes of your website, I think, is maybe one of the first tasks that you can eliminate. And the beauty of eliminating certain tasks is opportunity cost. So everything that you do, or every opportunity you take advantage of, there's a cost. If you're spending time doing one thing, that's taking away from time of doing another thing. If you spend your money on something, that's taking away money that you would have had to spend elsewhere. There's an opportunity cost to everything you do. So when you eliminate these excessive tasks that maybe are not essential at all, it's freeing up your time and energy to focus on the activities that are going to make a difference in your t-shirt business. thinking about maybe connecting with your customers, scaling and growing your business, or tasks that actually directly relate to you being more profitable. So go back through that to-do list you wrote down and see if you can't go ahead and eliminate a few tasks. You can pause this episode if you need to take a few more minutes to think about it, because once they have made the cut and you've eliminated what you need to eliminate, whatever you're left with, we're going to move on to the second step of the focus funnel, which is automate. Okay, so you've successfully eliminated those non-essential tasks that maybe were taking away from your time when you can spend it elsewhere. So now it's time to move on to the automation level. We have to decide, can I automate this task? There are a lot of tasks that we repeat and do over and over again. It takes our time and our energy, but there might be a way to automate this task so you can free up more of your time to move on to the next step. When you think of automation, also think of digitization in the sense of, are there things that you're doing by hand that maybe if you turned it into a digital system, that would actually free up time for you as well. So maybe think through inventory management. Are you still keeping a paper and pen log of what you have in stock? Whereas maybe when you're on the go, you can't necessarily answer questions that you get on the fly, like, hey, can I order this? Rush, can you have it done by tomorrow? But you haven't gotten home yet to see if you have it in stock. If you create, a inventory management system, maybe on Google Sheets, you could see it on your phone wherever you are. It's in the cloud and you can access that on the go. Or another inventory management system you can use with Google Sheets is via Paper and Spark. You can go to sunkissva.com/bookkeeping and you can check out some of her resources there. Probably the ultimate automation for a small creative business owner would be creating a website. So that's going to automate how you actually take orders and even going into how you fulfill orders. So currently you might be taking orders via, committing, and then you have to send an invoice, but you can't receive that order unless you take action. So not only are you taking action by posting the item, then you have to wait for someone to comment, and then maybe you don't have all the information and you're having to go back and forth to get all that information. Then they're waiting on you to invoice, and then you're waiting on them to pay. Let's automate how you take orders. What if you could take an order while you're sleeping and the customer doesn't have to ask you a bunch of questions that you repeat over and over again for each customer you help? What if they could just visit a website, click what they want, hit submit, and then you're hearing that Shopify cha-ching while you're sleeping, or maybe you have it on silent, and you wake up to orders that it's time to go fulfill. Like, how amazing would that be to automate and not have to work back and forth for invoicing? Also, social media. You might be manually posting to all of your different channels that you're trying to manage. One way to automate would be by scheduling your posts, and by taking it a step further is if you could schedule all of your posts to different platforms from one place. So Meta has this option where you can schedule posts to both Facebook and Instagram just from your business suite. That would be an amazing way to get ahead of your social media calendar, is by scheduling your posts ahead of time. Another amazing tool that many of us love is a scheduling tool called CinchShare. It allows you to schedule to multiple different social media channels, as I kind of mentioned with Meta, but this gives you more options of where to schedule, and in advance. You can also schedule from your history folder. So if you're coming up on, a certain holiday where you already had scheduled posts before last year, you can just go into your history folder and reschedule what you've already created. To get a hold of a free trial, you can go to sunkissva.com/CinchShare, CinchShare, CinchShare, to get that free trial started, and you can check that out for yourself. With automation, it's not necessarily about replacing that human touch that you have in your t-shirt business. You might be reluctant to want to automate some of these tasks because you might be thinking, oh, I'm losing some of the customer service approach. It's not about that. It's about working smarter, not harder, and streamlining some of those repetitive tasks so you can create more time and space for yourself to maybe be a better customer service agent or fulfill those orders with a better touch without being stretched thin. Now, if that task hasn't been eliminated yet and you've decided, I can't really automate this task, we're going to move on to the third step of the focus funnel. The next step in the focus funnel is delegate. So if I can't eliminate the task, I can't automate the task, can I delegate it? Before I do this task myself, can I give it to somebody else to complete? Does it absolutely have to be me completing this task? Now, you wear many hats as a small business owner, but it's important to recognize that sometimes you can't do it all alone, especially on the road to scaling, or maybe you want more time back to spend with your family. Now, delegating tasks can bring numerous benefits to our businesses, but also our sanity. When you're trying to figure out which tasks that you should delegate in your business, think about areas where maybe you're weak in, thinking about maybe where you don't have that area of expertise or you're not really sure how to complete this task. And instead of taking the time to learn it, remember we have to choose our currency, whether it's time or money. Maybe you don't want to spend months trying to figure out how to do this task. You'd rather just delegate it to an expert. That's a good place to start. A good example would maybe be social media content. Instead of spending hours on Canva, maybe can I just get a set of graphics where it's already complete for me? So I know a person, Queen Bee, she creates a bunch of engagement graphics, both for your standard engagement, social media content, but also for your tea parties. So that could free up a lot of time. Should I absolutely be the one trying to create graphics from scratch when I can just buy them myself? The same thing with your engagement plan or your content calendar. Do I want to sit down and spend hours trying to make sense of these graphics, putting them in order, creating up captions for them, or can I just get a completed plan for them? And that's where I come into play. You can grab a content calendar from my website, or you can grab a tea party planner where it's a tea party outline from start to finish. And now my listings include those graphics that I mentioned from Queen Bee. So it's just one purchase at checkout. You're going to receive that content calendar with engagement graphics or that tea party planner with all the tea party graphics included. You can go to sunkissva.com to check out some of those items. But social media is a great place to start delegating if you're trying to earn some time back in your business. If you do decide to delegate other tasks or hire on help, whether it's a virtual assistant or someone to create other things for you or complete tasks for you, communication is key. Make sure you have clearly defined your expectations of this person that you're hiring. That includes tasks, like exactly what you're expecting to be complete on a timetable. When should these tasks be completed by? How much money is this going to cost? I wouldn't just throw, X amount of money at them and say, hey, yeah, complete this task when you can. That's a recipe for disaster. You want to make sure it's very clear. Also, before you're hiring on help, ask for a few referrals or references that you can maybe reach out to and verify this person's work. When you delegate those tasks, it doesn't necessarily mean complete hands off. It just means that you're leveraging the skills and expertise of other people to strengthen your business and give you time back. So you do want to have those regular check-ins with whoever you've delegated those tasks to make sure that you're still on track. We call those vector checks. Make sure that they're still on the right path. All right, we're on to the last step of the focus funnel. So you've started with a to-do list. You've X'd out what you thought that wasn't important or necessary, called eliminating. If you couldn't eliminate the task, you looked at it and thought, hey, is this repetitive? Is there a way to digitize or automate this task? If it can't be automated, you moved on to delegate and you asked, do I absolutely need to be the one that is completing this task? If you couldn't delegate it, it's come to the final step of do. There might be certain tasks that really are just for you to complete yourself. But before you start on that task, you need to decide, do I need to do this now or can it be done later. For those tasks that you decide need to be done by you, don't just run into them right away, just at face value. Take some time to decide, how are you going to complete these tasks? Can it be broken down even further into smaller bite-sized tasks? So if you have a project left on your to-do list that you decide you need to do, it's worth taking some time to break that project down into milestones or steps to complete so you don't get overwhelmed. When you're working through those tasks that you need to do, another helpful technique, and I might do a podcast episode on this in the future because I've also used this task management method as well, is called Eat That Frog, I believe it's called, by Brian Tracy. That's another book. And what that means is, what's the best way to eat a frog? If you're going to eat a frog, you don't want to sniff it. You don't want to, lick it, try it a little bit. The best way to eat a frog is just eat it. You just do it. And this task management philosophy is, if you did nothing else for the day, if you just did this one task, what task would make you feel better about the rest of the day? And it's maybe the worst task that you haven't been looking forward to, or it's that big task that is really going to move the needle forward. Focus on just eating the frog and getting that one done. So everyone has a frog each day. Pick your frog task, and that is your first one to get done. The reason why you want to do that one first is typically when you sit down, that's when you're at your peak and when you're going to work your best, versus leaving that big task for the end of the day where you're drained, and then next thing you know, it just rolls over to the next to-do list. So we want to take those important tasks and get that done first. Also, another technique I like, it's included in the product drop organizer, is time blocking. I love time blocking. It's where you start to work through different tasks and you're kind of auditing yourself or your time. So you're actually looking at those tasks that you decide that you need to do today. Think about how much time you think that task will take, and then you start to plug in those tasks into your calendar. You're starting to schedule those. If you're not using my product drop organizer, you can also maybe even use this with Google Calendar. So scheduling those tasks into your calendar with the goal of maybe having a more realistic expectation of how long these tasks will take. And it also allows you to stay on track. So whenever I time block, I like to get different highlighters. I will color coordinate that task to a certain color, and then I work in 10-minute increments. You can even get a small timer. That's what helped me as well, where you reset it for 10 minutes and then you count down. And then when that time is up, I mark out that little square for that 10-minute increment. I reset it and keep going. And the reason why I like working in 10-minute blocks is because if I happen to get off task, or I start picking up my phone, or I start scrolling, or I start working on something else, that little 10-minute reminder when that alarm goes off, it's almost kind of like a tap on the shoulder. And I remember like, oh, I'm off track. Let me get back on track. And it also makes it more manageable. If I'm working on a task that's going to take an hour, that can be a little bit daunting, but 6 10-minute time blocks, I can do that. You know how it's usually like, on the treadmill where you start mathing real hard, like, okay, I only have 4 laps. If I'm done with 1 lap, then that takes 2 minutes, and you start to negotiate with yourself. That's what time block does. It makes it more manageable when you break it out into those smaller chunks. Another productivity tool that you can use is Asana. So Asana is free. You have to kind of like poke around to make sure you stay on the free version. But I really like Asana, especially for these time blocking or time management tasks that you decide that you need to do. You can reorganize them in Asana, and if things pop up while you're trying to focus, you can just have that toolbar up to the side and just write them down there and then get back to what you're doing. So those are the 4 steps of the focus funnel: in depth, eliminate, automate, delegate, and do. You're probably going to start thinking about that in your sleep now, how many times we've said it. But now I want to do something fun and maybe look at a few case studies. So on Facebook, I asked, what business tasks do you dread doing the most? And I have 4 answers, and we'll work through each of these real time, put them through the focus funnel, and see where we land. So Laura said that she dreads figuring out what's next, like what's next to do in business. So let's think about this. Can she eliminate that task, figuring out what's next? I wouldn't eliminate that task. I do think it's very wise to stay ahead of the timeline and think about what you should be doing next in business, whether that's the next release or what is up and coming. So the next step in the focus funnel would be automate. Can you automate figuring out what's next? I wouldn't really say that that's something you could automate, I guess, but you could maybe digitize this to create automated reminders to be figuring out what's next. The next step would be delegate. Can you delegate figuring out what's next? And for this task, I can actually help. If you're trying to think about what themes to come up with next in your business, that's where the product drop organizer comes in, where it helps you stay ahead of weekly drops and idea creation for themes throughout the year. So if you want to maybe delegate that task for what's next, I recommend checking out the product drop organizer. But it might just come down to just doing it yourself, figuring out what's next. And I bet you a lot of times when you're having indecision of figuring out what's next, it might just be because you're getting overwhelmed with ideas and you want to do them all at once, but you don't know which one to start with next. I just recommend taking maybe the first idea that pops in your mind when you think about what's next and just go with it. And then see if you get feedback on those ideas that you have and pivot where necessary. Even if you're not necessarily getting feedback per se from your group, look at the numbers. Did it sell well? You don't necessarily need people to tell you they liked it or not. They'll show you that with how they're shopping. And another part of Laura's comment is that if it isn't received well by my group, remember whenever you're posting on social media, if people aren't responding, don't take that as, hey, this was a flop. Everyone hated it. No one responded, so they don't like it. Maybe they just didn't see it. Social media is typically only shown to 3 to 6% of your followers due to the algorithms and competing content in the newsfeed. So if you really want to make sure that you're reaching out to all of your subscribers, I recommend you get on top of an email list so you can reach them directly. Also, another way to not get stuck with maybe things that you thought would be a hit and then they were a flop is pre-ordering items. So if you are ordering a bunch of screen prints ahead of time and then trying to sell them, yeah, that would probably stress me out if I'm trying to guess what they're going to like. That's where I recommend pre-runs or weekly runs for the week where you take orders, then you order the supplies specific to the orders that you received. The next task that is dreaded to be done, so Leal dreads creating. So can we eliminate creating as a creative business owner? Probably not. So we can't eliminate that task. Can we automate it? I don't really think that's a task that we can per se automate. Can you delegate? This is a great one that I would probably delegate, especially if you hate doing it. If you are looking for certain designs to go on your items, then yeah, I would go check out a digital designer to create that for you. If you're trying to work on website graphics or redesigning your website, I'd go hire that out. If you're trying to work on those engagement graphics or content for social media, we already talked about that. Grab a content calendar. So I feel like for creating, that might be one that you could stop at the delegate level to where you don't even have to do it if you dread doing it. Now, if it's actually creating products yourself that you don't care to do, you could also delegate that by outsourcing to a wholesaler who can create those teas for you and maybe even drop ship for you where they go directly from creation direct to your customer stores. Okay, the next task that people dread doing, Sheila dreads bookkeeping. Can you eliminate this task? I would say no, or Uncle Sam might come knocking. So I would not eliminate bookkeeping. Can you automate bookkeeping to a certain extent? So with QuickBooks, that automates a lot of your bookkeeping, or Paper and Spark I talked about earlier in the episode. You can automate when it comes to the expenses. You can download all of your sheets and import them into your seller's spreadsheet, but you won't be able to automate your expenses. You do have to manually input those as well. If you want to have less expenses to input, you could buy less. I always like thinking about that. But that would be the automate phase. Now the delegate would be just hiring a bookkeeper. But remember, you have to pick your currency. Maybe you don't want to pay for a bookkeeper, so that's where you're going to just buckle down and go to the last phase of doing it yourself. I recommend managing your books one time a week, maybe at the end of the week. And the reason why bookkeeping is so important is that's what gives you a pulse of how your business is doing. You can figure out what's selling well, what's not selling well. Oh, I spent way too much money in this area. It's so important to bookkeep or budget because that's how you get an idea of a pulse for your business. Okay, the last one, the task that people dread doing, Adrienne dreads uploading to her website. So can you eliminate this task? Wouldn't really eliminate uploading to your website, so I think that's a good task to keep working through. Can you automate this? Yes, to a certain extent. So in the Product Drop Organizer Club, I give you Shopify CSVs or Wix CSVs where you download my spreadsheet and you just upload it or input it into your own website, and it creates all of the listings for you within minutes, including pictures. So there is a way to automate this task, and I can help you with the Product Drop Organizer Club. But if you are not a part of that club, maybe you want to move down to the Delegate. And this would be perfect for a virtual assistant. So if there's a virtual assistant out there that does uploading to your website or will handle that for you, again, choose your currency, time or money. If you want to pay to get this done, that is absolutely a task that you could stop at Delegate so you don't have to move down to do, and that would free you up time to do other things. Now, I think it is unique that I talked about all tasks that you dread doing. So these tasks, yeah, I might have talked about them and flew through them, and you might be thinking, oh, well, that was easy for you to say. If they are tasks that you dread, I highly recommend you not get down to the do phase because you don't look forward to them. They time suck your energy and your motivation. You just don't like doing these tasks, then don't do them. This is a great example of tasks that I would recommend you either automate or delegate so then it can free you up to do the things that you actually enjoy doing. So that's going to wrap up another episode of Turn Down the Hustle. Today we focused on the power of the focus funnel and how we can use it for task management and making sure we're actually working on the tasks that need to be worked on, not to mention making sure that you're the right person to be working on these tasks. It's so important that you identify those non-essential tasks that can be eliminated from your workload so you can free up that time and energy for the tasks that do actually move the ball forward. Then we talked about the automate step, where you looked at maybe using technology or tools or software that can help you streamline those tasks that you're doing over and over again. In the delegate phase, we talked about maybe hiring on those experts that can do those tasks for you. And then finally, there's just some tasks that you need to do yourself. But before you just jump in and do them, you need to decide, does this need to be done absolutely right now, or can it be done later? I'd love to hear from you and how you're applying the focus funnel in your own business. You can search Turn Down the Hustle on Facebook and join the Facebook group, create a post, let us know about it. And in this group, you're also going to find more resources and discussions from like-minded entrepreneurs just like you, trying to navigate and figure out this thing called productivity and figure out how to integrate business back in with your life. Thank you for joining me for another episode. It's time to wrap up another incredible episode of Turn Down the Hustle. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode and found some valuable insights to fuel your journey. Don't forget to visit sunkissva.com/podcast to access the show notes for this episode. You'll find all the links mentioned in today's discussion, along with actionable tips and resources to help you implement what we've discussed. Lastly, make sure to hit that follow button so you never miss another episode. I'll be here cheering you on and sharing more inspiration and strategies to help you turn down the hustle and work smarter, not harder. I'm so honored to be a part of your journey. Until next time.